folks, welcome to Casting with Kirk today. I'm Kirk, so happy you're here with me today. So we talked in a previous video about matching the hatch and color. Today I want to talk about matching the hatch, but size of your lures. Now some lakes you go on, some river systems, you get out there and you might see just tiny little bait fish all over the place. Or you get out there and you see some big old shad jumping around, you see some big old perch and just some other larger bait fish that they're going after. I mean, even there's different size crayfish and crawdads and stuff like that that you can find. Now, when it comes to matching the hatch in the size, if, say, you're on a lake or river system that has a lot of small fish, you might want to grab yourself a small little 1.5 crankbait. It's a smaller profile. Slightly smaller worm, 4 to 6 to 7 inch worm if you're going to throw soft plastics. You can even really downsize and go with a tiny little, just a small little swim bait body. Little 4-inch craw. But then you get on the lakes, you've got big, huge fish. Grab yourself a big chatterbait, looks like a big old shad. 3/8 ounce to 1/2 ounce spinner bait represents a school of shad. Big old buzz bait coming across the surface. A lot of times when you get those bigger baits, that'll fire up those bigger fish. Now you can also catch big fish with small baits. I've actually caught some pretty decent size smallmouth on just these tiny little swim bait bodies put on a little net head. But now there's the flip side. I have gone out and been fishing on a lake that have smaller fish, little 1.5s, square bills, catching hardly anything. Decide to change things up and I grab a 2.5, much larger, 1/2 ounce compared to the 3/8 ounce, and all of a sudden they just start hammering it. Same thing with like spinner baits. I might throw a 1/4 ounce, catch absolutely nothing. Put on a big old 3/8 or a 1/2 ounce spinner bait with bigger blades, and all of a sudden they just start hammering on it. And it could even be the smaller fish. Throwing worms. You're throwing a little 4-inch trick worm. Nothing's happening. Don't even know why, but you throw on a big old like 8, 9-inch chunk of a worm like that. Your big 10-inch monsters. You start throwing these and all of a sudden the bass are just going crazy attacking those things. You could be throwing, say, like a Series 300 jerkbait. Bass are going after big shad that day. There's a lot of big shad in the water, but they're not hitting it. All of a sudden you go down to, say, a 150 or 200 series, a lot smaller, one or, it's got 2 hooks, and all of a sudden they just go crazy. So yeah, again, like we talked about in the previous video, you want to try to match the hatch. If you got small bait, smaller lures, big bass, go after the big baits. But again, now you can flip it and try to entice bigger bass with smaller little baits if they're not hitting the big ones. But thank you folks for joining me today. Go out, get yourself maybe a couple of different sizes of some lures, experiment, see what you can find on your local waters. You folks have yourself a great day. Thank you again.